I'm Gina Chua. I'm executive editor at Reuters. You know, when I was young, I didn't feel like I was like everybody else. I don't know what age that would be, 8, 9, 10, you know, something like that. I don't think I really knew what it was. And, you know, and if you think back to those days, which was the 1960s and the 1970s, there just really wasn't a lot. There was no internet, there was nothing you could look up. You know, so I really started to understand that I was transgender. So I'm from Singapore. I was born in Singapore. All males in Singapore have to join the army, and so I was in the military for 2.5 years. Started working as a computer programmer for a bit, and then as a journalist, and then went off. I won a scholarship to go to Columbia Journalism School in New York, so I came for a year. That scholarship was paid for by Reuters, and then 9 months after that, I became editor of the Asian Wall Street Journal. Did that for 8 years, moved to New York for the Wall Street Journal, became deputy managing editor after a couple of years, and then left in 2009 and went back to Hong Kong to be editor-in-chief of the South China Morning Post. And in 2011, came back to Reuters in New York, and I've been here since. You know, how did I manage it through all of the years? I'm very good at compartmentalizing. It's like this part of my life here, and then it's done, and now I'm in this part of my life here. And, you know, and slowly over the years, you try to pull them closer together, and that's, I think, what has happened to me as well, until you come to this moment where you say, look, I have one life, I don't have two lives. The pandemic has gotten in the way of this transition. In some ways, the pandemic has been really good. Now, that's not to downplay, you know, all the suffering that's been caused. But because you are at home and you're spending time away from other people, and the only thing that people see of you is, you know, this much on a screen, you can really start to just settle into a different skin. Eventually, you know, as late December, just make the decision to become public and actually transition. And then I started telling people at work and you know, especially HR and my boss and my boss's boss and so on, about what the timeline would look like. And I started planning the timeline. Before I transitioned, obviously I was a little more careful about how I looked on camera, and then afterwards I looked like this. My name was Reg. At the office, I don't think anyone, I certainly am not expecting anyone to react badly. Well, some people will have trouble with names and pronouns and so on, but again, you know, as long as people are trying, that's fine. I look a little different, my name is different, I'm doing exactly the same things I did before. I still eat the same food, I live in the same place. I mean, that hasn't changed, and that part of it, that normality of it, has become fantastic. As I say, I used to spend a lot of my time, a lot of my brain occupied about thinking about this. This is who I am. When I went out as Gina before I transitioned, I would open the door of my apartment and then listen to see if anybody was in the corridor, so that, you know, I could get out without being seen. I mean, even now, I open the door and sometimes I think I should listen. I was like, why am I listening? I just go out. Everybody in the building knows me. What difference does it make? And so the normality of it has been great. Look, Reuters has been fantastic, right? I mean, all the way through from, you know, the HR policy and health benefits and everything. It's been wonderful. I've had colleagues, I've had friends, I've had strangers even write to me and say, you know, my child is trans, or I have a friend who's trans, or in some cases I'm sort of on the same journey as well. And sort of be able to hear their stories and to reach out and to offer help or advice or resources. I think a lot of trans people go through cycles where they try to deny that they're trans, and for trans men, I think that's turning to becoming much more feminine and seeing if that's their life. And for trans women, it's becoming much more masculine. It's joining the army, it's playing football, it's doing things, right, because you want to cure yourself of this, right? You want to see, you think there's something wrong with you. And so endless cycle of questioning yourself. It is the inability to tell people about yourself. It's the sense that you're hiding something. There's a sense of shame. Attempted suicide in the trans community it's horrifying. You understand the level of despair that some people have about this. You can be trans and you can still get by in the world. You can be who you are and not suffer for it, and you can be successful. I think the important thing is you remove one element of the unhappiness in your life. That doesn't necessarily make you happy, but you do get rid of one thing that's bothering you. You get rid of one thing that is occupying part of your mind. I just turned 60 a month ago. It was one of the factors in my decision, honestly, but I didn't want to get to 65 and say, why didn't I do it? Life is too short to be somebody that you are not.